The story starts in a small, dark bar where Jo is working as a bartender. She notices Mark Setter, an assistant district attorney, sitting at the counter. Mark secretly gives money to a man and gets something in return. His friend Larry is sitting beside him, drinking. Mark orders a beer and talks to Jo, asking what she will do after work. Jo, who has always found Mark interesting, enjoys the conversation. She smiles, making a joke about how she never has time for anything after work. Mark laughs and the two share a light-hearted moment. Later, Jo and Mark spend some time together enjoying each other's company. They talk about their lives, their struggles, and their dreams. Jo tells him about her bar and how she built it up from nothing. Mark listens, impressed by her determination, but their moment is cut short. When Mark's alarm rings, he quickly turns on the TV. The news talks about his big win in the Delete Sono case. This case exposed a corrupt businessman who caused many deaths. The news praises Mark for his hard work and his relentless fight for justice. Jo is proud of him, but can tell he's under a lot of pressure. She wants him to stay and relax for a bit longer, but Mark says he has to leave before he goes. She warns him about Ernie Dux, a dangerous man she has seen around. Mark tells her not to worry and assures her that everything is under control. Then he puts on a ring, gives Jo a final look and leaves while driving. Mark calls his wife Sharon. She congratulates him on his success and says she saw him on TV. They exchange a few words, but Mark seems distracted. Suddenly, he realizes another car is following him. He checks his mirrors, trying to get a better look before he can react. The car crashes into him, pushing his car off the road. The call cuts off, leaving Sharon confused and scared. She tries calling him back, but there is no answer. Panic starts to rise inside her. The next morning, Sharon's life is shattered. Her friend, Detective Carmen Traxler, comes to her house with terrible news. Mark is dead, heartbroken. Sharon goes to the hospital to see his body. She refuses to believe that his death was just an accident. Carmen also finds it suspicious and promises to investigate. She tells Sharon to be strong and assures her that she will find the truth. Jo also hears the news and is devastated, but she's even more shocked to learn that Mark was married. He never told her about his wife, feeling hurt and confused. She stays away from the situation. She wonders if the relationship meant anything to him at all. Anger and sadness mix inside her, but she keeps her feelings to herself. At Mark's funeral, Sharon stands by his casket while friends and colleagues offer their sympathy. She tries to keep herself composed, but it is difficult from a distance. Jo watches, but does not step forward. She feels like she does not belong there yet. She cannot make herself leave either. Larry, Mark's friend, goes to Sharon and tells her he's there for her. He offers his support and tries to comfort her, but Sharon barely hears his words. Her mind is clouded with grief. Later, Larry returns to his apartment feeling exhausted. As he enters, he senses something is wrong. The air feels heavy. Suddenly, two men, Strand and Sheldon, appear from the shadows. Strand demands to know where the documents Mark got from. Dux, Larry, scared and caught off guard, says he doesn't know, but when Strand threatens Sharon, Larry gives in. He says Dux still has the documents. He begs them not to hurt her, but Strand only smirks before leaving. The next day, Jo decides to go to the funeral. Even though she has mixed feelings, Sharon approaches her and starts a conversation. They introduce themselves and share their grief over Mark. Jo admits that she didn't know he was married. Sharon looks at her carefully and nods, saying that Mark kept many secrets before Jo leaves. Sharon stops her. She says, talking to someone outside her usual life is comforting. She asks Jo to have a drink with her, and Jo invites her to her bar. At the bar they talk more. Sharon says she never knew Mark came here and wonders why he kept it a secret. She also mentions that she doesn't know the password to Mark's computer, which detectives need. Jo remembers Mark meeting two men the night he died. One was Dux. She didn't recognize the other man, but she saw Dux give something to Mark. She starts thinking this might be linked to his death. Sharon talks about the Delete Sono case. It was one of Mark's biggest cases, and it could have sent powerful people to jail. She thinks his murder might be connected to it. She also recalls something strange. Mark recently started wearing a pink tie, even though he hated that color. It seemed odd, but she never asked him about it. Before Joe can respond, she notices Wendy Duck's girlfriend sitting nearby. Joe goes to her and asks about ducks. Wendy hesitates, but Joe offers to pay for her drinks. In exchange for information, Wendy finally gives in and tells Joe where Ducks is staying. Sharon tries to call Carmen, but she doesn't answer. Frustrated, Sharon leaves a message. Instead of waiting for the police, she and Joe decide to find Ducks themselves. Sharon is surprised by Joe's willingness to help but also grateful. She realizes that despite their different lives, they both cared about Mark in their own way. Following Wendy's directions, they reach an old, creepy house. The place is eerily quiet. The windows are covered with dust, and the air smells stale. They walk carefully through the dark hallways. Every step they take echoes in the empty house on the second floor. They hear a noise, holding their breath. They move toward it. When they follow the sound, they find something shocking. Ducks is dead. His body is slumped over lifeless. Both women freeze in fear. What should they do? Should they call the police before they can decide? Joe sees movement outside. She rushes to the window and spots a group of men leaving. They look suspicious. Their face is hidden under hooded jackets. Without thinking, she follows them. Sharon hesitates, then runs after her. Suddenly, one of the men attacks Joe. Joe reacts fast and kicks him hard. As he stumbles back, Sharon jumps in and kicks him from behind. Just when they think they're safe, Strand appears ready to fight. His face is calm, but his eyes are full of menace. Joe and Sharon exchange a quick glance. They know they are in trouble. Before Joe can react, she quickly grabs a gun from Sharon and starts shooting, but in all the chaos she misses and the man escapes. He disappears into the shadows before anyone can stop him. Sharon and Joe stare at each other, catching their breath, realizing they just lost their only lead. Later, Detective Carmen arrives to check the scene. Looking around carefully, she questions Joe, asking her what happened. Joe tells her that she believes Mark's death and Duck's murder are connected. She explains that Ducks gave Mark something very important before he died, something that people might kill for. Carmen listens but remains skeptical, warning Joe not to jump to conclusions. While investigating, Joe recognizes one of the men she saw at Duck's house, giving them a big clue. She points him out in a photograph, making it clear that they are on the right track. Meanwhile, Carmen gives Sharon a secret file about Joe's past. It shows that Joe has been in and out of trouble for fraud, moving from place to place without staying anywhere for too long. Carmen warns Sharon to be careful, but Sharon doesn't let this change her opinion. She tells Carmen to focus on finding Mark's killer instead of digging into Joe's past. Carmen also shares that a powerful man hired someone named Lewis to get rid of problems. Lewis is dangerous and ruthless, known for never leaving loose ends. At the same time, Joe confirms the identity of the man from Duck's house, making their case stronger. Sharon thanks Joe and asks how she learned to fight so well. Joe simply says her ex-boyfriend taught her and moves on, not wanting to talk about it any further. That night Joe goes home with Sharon, only to find her house completely wrecked. Drawers are open, furniture is broken, and papers are everywhere. It looks like someone was searching for something important. Sharon's hands shake as she takes in the destruction. Joe, angry and frustrated, takes a sip of whiskey and hands the bottle to Sharon as they sit in the mess. Sharon opens up about her child who only lived for 6 hours. Her voice shakes as she speaks, and Joe listens quietly. Realizing Sharon's pain runs deep, Joe hesitates for a moment. She then insists they leave because it's not safe anymore. She helps Sharon pack and takes her to her own home, making sure she has a safe place to stay. While looking around Joe's house, Sharon notices a strange set of tools on a table, including a flashbang, a device that stuns people without hurting them. She wonders why Joe has such things. She also stumbles upon a hidden photo in the bathroom, shocked. She sees that it's a picture of Joe and Mark together, smiling as if they had been close. Sharon's heart pounds in her chest, feeling betrayed. She storms out, unable to process what she just saw. Joe follows, but Sharon is already gone, disappearing into the night. Sharon goes to Larry's place and asks if he knew about Mark and Joe. Larry says he didn't but assures Sharon he will always support her, Though still upset, Sharon is comforted by his words and decides to stay at her broken house that night, despite the mess and the danger. The next morning, Joe visits Sharon to explain, but Sharon is too angry to listen. Joe begs her to understand that she never knew Mark was married and only found out after he died. She says their relationship was short, lasting only a few months, but Sharon refuses to forgive her as Joe leaves. She sees a picture of Larry and realizes he was with Mark on the night he met Dux. Joe tells Sharon about this discovery, though still mad. Sharon agrees to keep working with Joe, but only if they report everything to the police together. They go to Mark's office and find a video on his computer. It shows the district attorney's wife with a man named Deo. Sensing it is important, Sharon records it on her phone, but before they can do more, the district attorney Sheldon suddenly enters. He quickly apologizes and leaves, acting suspicious. Joe and Sharon exchange looks, realizing that something bigger is happening. Later, they find Larry, who reveals something shocking. Mark bought secret files from Dux containing dangerous information about powerful people at Dano Industries. Sharon is furious that Larry never told her, and walks away, struggling to understand all the lies surrounding Mark's life. While walking alone, Sharon is confronted by Lewis and his partner Sonny. They try to trap her, cornering her in an alley, but she runs. At one point they pin her under a car, pressing down, hard to stop her from moving, but Joe arrives just in time to save her. She fights off Sonny, while Sharon pushes Lewis away. They barely escape in their car, speeding away. As bullets fly past them, Sharon watches the video again and notices something shocking. Detective Carmen is in it now. They don't know who they can trust. They decide to visit Lisa, who has connections to Sheldon and Dano. Sharon asks Lisa about her ties to the company, but Lisa says she only knows them through charity events. Meanwhile, Joe secretly searches Lisa's house but is caught and forced to leave before finding anything useful. Oh, and Lisa putting them back, "I'm so sorry." What Lisa doesn't know is that her conversation with Sheldon is being recorded in the recording. Lisa warns Sheldon about Joe and Sharon's visit, confirming their suspicions. Later, Joe and Sharon see Carmen enter Sheldon's house, raising even more questions about her involvement. They take all their evidence to Detective Glenn at the police station, but he refuses to help. He says Carmen is already handling the case. Carmen then confronts them, directly warning them to stop investigating. She tells them Lisa reported Joe snooping. When Joe and Sharon deny it, Carmen reminds them that their actions could get them into legal trouble. That night, Joe takes Sharon to visit her birth mother at the hospital. As they leave, Sharon suddenly asks if Mark ever really loved Joe. After a pause, Joe admits that he didn't. He was just using her as a distraction, but she confesses that she truly loved him. Later that night, Sharon gets a scary phone call from Lewis. He calmly tells her that he has Larry as a hostage. He gives her an address and warns her not to bring anyone, or Larry will die. She hears Larry begging in the background. When Joe asks where she's going, Sharon lies, saying she just needs to clear her head. Sharon arrives at the location alone and follows Lewis inside. But before anything happens, Larry outsmarts them and manages to kill both Sonny and Lewis. He then hands Sharon a flash drive with proof of Dano Industries' crimes before they can escape. Sheldon arrives, demanding the drive. Larry pulls a gun and forces Sheldon to hand over money in exchange for it. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out. Lewis, barely alive, shoots Larry. In the chaos, Joe arrives and causes an explosion as a distraction. The police storm in and Detective Carmen arrests Sheldon and the Dano executives. In the end, a news report exposes Dano Industries' crimes. It reveals how they were poisoning local water. Thanks to the flash drive, justice is served. Sharon and Joe, despite everything that happened, know they made the right choice in fighting for the truth. As the sun rises on a new day, Sharon and Joe sit together, reflecting on everything that happened.